Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Project Glow's Self-Love Q&A. I'm Stephanie Burton with a croaky voice. I'm Stephanie Burton and this is Project Glow. Q&A is a weekly thing that I do here, and I'm so grateful for all the questions that you submitted. Keep them coming, keep them rolling in, either in the comments below or send me a private message. And I usually take on 5 questions each week, and this week I have my 5 questions, or at least I think I do, my 5 questions. And if you have any questions while I'm doing the show, please make sure that you post it in the comments. I can see them right in front of me, so I will answer them as well. So today I've got, 5 questions. Some of them are a little bit longer and some of them a little bit shorter. I will start them off in a moment. I'm just going to have a look who's here. Hi guys, thank you for joining me, and keep your questions coming. All right, so let's kick off with the 5. Question number 1. Hi Steph, how do you know when you are ready to date again, especially after being with a narcissist? Wow, that is a big question. All right. The process of being in a relationship with a narcissist is a long, drawn out, emotionally draining thing. What you do have to keep in mind though is there's always 2 sides of the story, and not that one person is right and the other person is wrong. No, it's that 2 pieces come together and they fit together. And usually what that means is if you're a person who's been with a narcissist, that means that you have a codependency habit in relationships, that you're probably anxiously attached in terms of attachment theory. And actually knowing when to be in a relationship is a tough thing, because what you really have to do is to move from codependency temporarily into independence to be able to then long-term step into interdependence. But what that really requires is for you to have very, very strong, very solid, very healthy and sound boundaries. Now, that has a lot to do with how much self-work you're going to be doing in the process of being alone. So let's say you've broken up with a narcissist, you're now alone. Of course, you can go dating and just repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. So my big recommendation is that you take some very distinct, dedicated and conscious time out not to be with anyone. I did that process for a whole year, and it was hard because I naturally tend towards being with people, but I really had to take the courage to actually be alone, because a lot of people who end up in relationships with narcissists actually are in a place where they do not have real distinct boundaries, and they're overgivers and as such they will just get into another relationship and give again, over care again. So you need to break the habit. You really need to come home to yourself, go on a proper process of learning to fall in love with yourself first. And one of the greatest exercises you can do is write a list of what you're seeking in a partner, and then really completely and utterly dedicate your life to becoming that person first. Because like attracts like, and if you're constantly seeking something on the outside, whether that is financial stability or emotional validation or somebody that gives you compliments, if you can't do that for yourself first, then you're just going to get into the same pattern over and over again. The second thing I would say of when to know when to get into a relationship is, if you are not completely and utterly grateful and see the purpose of every past relationship, then I would also go, whoa, let's sit down and really go through them. Let's go look at who you become in relationships. Let's go look at what kind of person you pick over and over again, because in each one of those relationships, there was a lesson, a message, there was a gift. And before you can really, solidly be on your own and really, nobody has to say, nobody's saying you have to, say, I never want to be in another relationship, but get to a point where you can really comfortably say, okay, if this is what I'm going to do forever, then that's actually okay. And have an independent purpose, an independent vision, an independent, an independent way of living your life. What's important to you? What do you value most? Because if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, that means that your entire existence was about the other person. So my number one tip is take conscious time out, not just, oh, you're kind of dating and you're just here in the meantime until somebody else comes along. Actually give yourself a distinct time frame and say, I'm not going to be with anyone. That's my tip number one. And really in that time, don't just bide the time away, until you get to the end of it. It's really stepping into your own life. And then secondly, get into a place where you're really consciously aware of each and every relationship, what each and every relationship brought to you, who you became in that, why they break up. Kind of do a stock take of your relationship life, if you like. And then, be really aware, what kind of overgiving you do and what kind of overcaring and what are those red flags. And most importantly at all, go into your childhood and dig up what was programmed into you, into your childhood, that actually made you choose a narcissist. But yeah, the overall idea of knowing when you're ready, when you're actually comfortable, that point at which you can absolutely, completely and truly and honestly from your heart say that you would be totally and utterly okay if you were single forever. That's the juicy point. That's the point where really you are solid in yourself, and that's one of the sexiest, most attractive things there are on the planet. So that's my answer to how do you know when you're ready to date again? When you're not doing it from a place of victim, when you're not doing it from a place of need, but that you're totally and utterly content and complete within your own self. And really be honest about that to yourself, and then say, I'm totally cool and fine and complete with who I am, but I would love someone else to join me in that dance. But, if that doesn't work out, it's okay as well. I hope that answers your questions, and thank you very much for posting it. All right, my next question tonight is, how do I move past anger, hurt, and resentment? So the person didn't say what kind of anger, hurt, and resentment, but with any of these things, big curveballs come into our lives to deliver us messages and lessons. And whenever there's a challenge that comes along, you will always be equally supported as well. So first of all, let's have a look at why you are hurt, why you are resentful, why you are angry. That usually means because A, you're not in a place where you can really see, understand, and appreciate the lesson and the message that this particular difficulty or challenge is bringing to you. Now, a subset of that is when you don't, when you're not really clear on your purpose, and when you're not really clear on who you are as a person and what you value the most, then that's very difficult to link. Because when you have a purpose, you can say, okay, these difficult things are here to grow and guide me to my greatness. And my greatness is ... So that's really important, that you're really clear on what is your vision, what is your purpose, because then you can understand why these difficult things have come to you. The fact, however, that you're angry, hurt, and resentful means that you can only see half the story, because I've said this many times, any situation that comes along will give you equal challenge and support. And being hurtful and resentful and angry means that you're probably stuck in the dark side. You're stuck in only seeing the negative, only seeing the downside. That's all you see. You don't see the lesson, you don't see the message, and you certainly don't see the support and how somebody's delivering exactly the opposite you exactly at the same time. So that's the second element. The third element is also has to do with getting into a place where you can see that actually the things that have come to challenge you, how can I put this, are there to contribute to you coming back into yourself and getting to a place of self-love. Okay, so one of the aspects is, how is this growing and shaping your self-love? Number one. How have you only seen half of the story, And how are you not aware of the message and the lesson and the purpose? Another element that sits sneakily underneath all of this is unrealistic expectations of people, of life, of events. So that actually happens a lot when we are in relationships, either with family members or romantic relationships or business relationships. We kind of make a picture in our mind of who we think that person is, and then we lock it into our mind. The thing that we're actually ignoring is that that person is who they are, and they have a set of values that they live their life by, and they're always going to follow that value system. They're not here to always be the way that we've shaped them in our minds. And as a result, we get into a place where we think that that person is always going to behave in a certain kind of way. But the truth is that that human being or that situation is always making decisions every day new, from the base of who they are on that day and what serves them the most. So having unrealistic expectations is usually when you think that the person is only nice, but actually every person has light and dark. Or that a situation is only ever going to be easy, like a relationship. Or, you have unrealistic expectations about people helping you out or people looking after you. Unrealistic expectations are the root cause of a lot of anger and resentment, because we think that that person should have behaved a certain way. But little alarm bells should go off in your mind when you hear the word should, because that means that you are putting your value system on the other people around you, and you're not really seeing them for who they are. A lot of the times this happens in new relationships when we get to meet somebody new and we're in the high of the honeymoon of the beginning, and then all of a sudden they start showing us their balanced other side, and we go, now I'm angry, now I'm resentful, you didn't show me all your cards up front. Or was it actually that you just didn't see all the totality of the person straight up front? You just saw the upside. And to be fair with you, your body chemistry kind of put you into that state of high as well. It is very, very, very wise to always look for the light and the dark in every situation and in every person straight from the start, because then you're not going into that situation with unrealistic expectations. All right, I hope that answers your question. But to kind of sew it up a little is to move past anger, hurt, and resentment. Ultimately, what you need to do is get into a complete and utter state of gratitude. And that's actually moving from a place of saying, oh, I forgive you, sort of from a moral high ground, where you can say, oh, I'm just going to make this okay. And then real forgiveness is actually saying, thank you for giving me the opportunity to grow towards my greatness and understand the balance both within you and within me. So really, the only way to move through and past anger, hurt, and resentment is to see the balance, the lesson, and the message, and take ownership that maybe, you had unrealistic expectations. But ultimately, that's what I do with every one of my clients, and what I do with myself all the time. When a curveball comes, I immediately go, okay, where is the opposite? Because if there's light, there has to be dark immediately. Then I go, okay, is the opposite? Where's the opposite? Where's the opposite? Is it equal? I don't stop until it's equal. And then I flip it and I go, okay, if this is here, it's divine. If it's divine, it's here to serve me. How is this growing and guiding me to my greatness? So light, dark, equal, greatness. That's how you do it. All right. Thank you for that question. Very, very cool question. Question number 3 is, how can I reach a state of gratitude when I've hit absolute rock bottom? Well, that's a little bit similar to the question above. Anything that happens to us, any difficult circumstances, illness, financial, divorce, anything that there is, has come to grow and guide you to your greatness. So the first thing you have to go look for, what is the message and the message and blessing and gift and lesson that this thing is trying to deliver to you? Because nothing difficult on the planet happens without at the same time delivering to you a lesson a lesson to become aware, a lesson to become awake, a lesson to see the balance, a lesson to see your part in the whole story, because it's always an entanglement. So the first step is what is the message, the lesson? Then the next thing is how are you being completely and utterly challenged and equally supported? So you write a list. What is supporting you? What's still going right? Because that's the part of your perception that your brain completely loses track on. When you've hit rock bottom, you're literally just staring at the bottom. There is no looking up. There isn't, oh, well, this is going to make me great at climbing out of that rock bottom, because you're just focused on the darkness. And so what you need to come is back into balance. If this is so much dark, there's so much light. Go and look for it. What is still going right? How you're being grown, how you're being shaped, how you're being pushed. How is this moving you towards more self-love? Okay, so first up, what is the lesson and the message? Second, what is the support and what is still going right? The two of them are absolutely fundamentally important. And those two things need to go hand in hand, and you really need to dive in. Not just two things, not just five things. I take a great big whopping piece of flip chart paper. I mean, it's a whopping piece of paper, and I write on it. I stick it somewhere where I can see it, and I will write not 5, not 50, not 50, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of benefits of this thing happening to me. There's a little pen next to my bed, and I just add to it every single day. That's exactly what I did when my divorce came. I put a great big piece of paper next to my bed at my bedside table, and every single day I wrote down 5 more things why this divorce has been the greatest thing that ever happened to me. How is it benefiting me financially? How is it benefiting me mentally? Now, in the beginning, your brain goes, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous, because at the moment I'm being destroyed financially. But then take it to the next level. How is being destroyed financially actually the greatest thing that could happen to you long-term financially? You really have to dig deep. This is incredibly difficult when you're doing it by yourself. So please get a friend, somebody you trust, or a coach. I always do 20-minute sessions with anyone for free. I want to help you. You'd be absolutely amazed how much I can get done in 20 minutes. So those two things is you must start, especially if you hit rock bottom. Really do basic stuff at the start. Did you have a nice sleep? Were you warm? Did you have a warm shower? Do you have food? Do you live in a first world country? Can you go down the road and get free medical help? Do you walk outside the street without having to be worried about being raped or, hijacked? Those are really basic things that your body completely and utterly starts to ignore. And then the second element, how is this thing the greatest thing that's ever happened to you? The Stoics were great upon that. That's what resilience is really built on. Understanding that the universe doesn't do things just for random giggles. It has very specifically placed these very specific challenges in your relationship, in your job, with your children, in your surroundings, to push you to really dig deep and become the greatest version of yourself that you possibly can be. All right. I hope that answers your question. I could go on about this for hours, by the way, but the main two that I want you to remember, because you're probably in a state of rock bottom right now, and have compassion with yourself. Human beings, being a human being is a tough thing. Hitting rock bottom, gosh, it's happened to all of us. But, it's just having the courage to look at it from a different perspective. And the two things that I would start straight away with a client that comes to me that tells me they've hit rock bottom is, how is this growing and guiding you, and where are you supported to the same extent, to the equal and same extent as you're being challenged? Because that's what you're here to do. You're here in life on this planet to become the greatest version of yourself. The only way the universe can do that is by challenging you and supporting you at exactly the same moment. So you're like a sandwich. You're like a greatness sandwich, always being pushed towards high levels of awareness and consciousness. All right. Let's move on to number 4. And I just see, Nick, you've posted a question here, so I'll do that after this one. Question number 4. What does a healthy relationship actually look like? Oh, wow. Wow, that's a very cool question. So I actually think that a healthy relationship is any relationship that teaches you something. Now, I think what you're actually asking me is a deeply connected, conscious, communicative relationship. And that already has all the elements in it. There is communication, there is compassion, there is compatibility, but most importantly, there is capacity. Because I want you to imagine you're going out onto the platform of a busy train station. If we stopped every single person and asked them to sing, how many people do you think could naturally sing? Maybe 2. Maybe 2. What if we then pack all of these people off to a singing lesson, and then afterwards, let's make that a 4 or 5 hour singing lesson. And afterwards, we check again how many people can actually sing. You'd be surprised, because singing is actually something that we can all learn. So let's say 80% of the platform can now sing quite well and hold a tune. There's still 20% that no matter what you do are never ever going to be able to learn how to sing, because they don't have capacity. Now, they might not have capacity because of a trauma. They might not have capacity because a genetic condition in their brain. They might be on the spectrum of autistic or Asperger's, or avoidant attachment. There's emotionally unavailable, and then all the way at the end there's narcissistic and psychopathic and sociopathic. Not every human being has the capacity. A lot of people want to be in great, connected, deeply functioning relationships, but not a lot of people have the capacity. Being in a relationship is something that we need to learn how to do. It's not just something that we naturally do. And ladies, I'm going to have to say a little here. We like to think that just because we have the upper hand on empathy, that we're great at relationships. That's not how it works at all. Relationships is something that you need to learn. All about respect, compassion, communication. Communication is a huge, huge deal in a relationship. But then the most important thing in a relationship is actually, as I've said before, that your self-love, that your boundaries, that your definition of who you are and what you're here to do is defined, is healthy, is whole, that it doesn't look like, like a colander that's leaking, or Swiss cheese with a million different holes in it. That's really important. So I would say a healthy relationship is one where both people are completely and utterly aware that relationships are not one-sided, and that difficulty is going to come. It's not an if, it's a when. And when that comes, that they both have a way of really interacting with their own emotions first, and understanding how to manage and communicate their own emotions, and then how to step into communication and hold the space for the other person. Because when that person comes to you and says, I can't believe you haven't put something in the fridge again, it will trigger you. So it's kind of like managing your triggers, but then also being able to communicate. There's a beautiful thing is called How to Communicate with the Wish in Disguise. I talk a lot about this on my courses and in my coaching. Is most of us kind of just let the crocodile out and we go, rah, 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 why have you done that? And we need to learn how to move from our reactive crocodile into our higher awareness and our responsive wise owl. I have a YouTube video on that. It's called Conscious Communication for Creating Deep and Lasting Partnerships. Have a look at that. It kind of goes a little bit into the communication side that is paramount. I mean, communication is absolute foundation for relationships. So a healthy relationship will have that as its foundation, and real respect and understanding of themselves, and also the purpose and the nature of how to, why you're in a relationship, what attracted to each other, what's your wound, what's your programming. So that's, most people think healthy relationships are just about making each other feel good. That's just not true. I'm going to post in the comments a link to a great colleague of mine. His name is Jason Gaddis. He has an amazing website. His courses are 10 out of the 10 awesome. And the best part of his offering is his podcast, because it gives you a real understanding of what a real relationship looks like. A healthy, real relationship. Not just a fluffy one that's always just okay and always up and always one-sided, because that would be an unrealistic view of life and relationships. Okay, I hope I gave you an idea there. I'm going to read the question that I see on my screen now. Can we have our desired partner and life we want if there's always challenge and support, or do we have to compromise and accept second best? Woo, great question. Thank you so much, Nick. I do not believe in compromise. I think it's one of the absolute baloney concepts in relationships, because if you think you are compromising in your relationship, you are not seeing how that relationship is there to grow and guide you to your greatness. Because two people come into a relationship, they have opposite weaknesses and opposite strengths. Together, they're there to elevate each other to a higher state of consciousness. Okay, so there is no compromise ever, because every single relationship that you've ever been in and will ever be in, ever, will always have challenge and support, it'll always have light and dark equally. So your partner will always support you and guide you, and then there will always be something that will also challenge you, because relationships are there to grow and guide you, and to actually, come into a greater sense of who you are and a greater understanding of the universe. But thinking that that you have to compromise means that you do not understand that relationships are here to grow and guide you. You do not understand that actually there is no one-sided person, no one-sided life, no one-sided you, because you're not just always light. You have light and dark, and you bring to a relationship benefits and drawbacks. And so when I look at that first part of that question is can we have our desired partner? Well, that depends on whether you have unrealistic expectations. If you say that you want your partner to have these and these and these and these attributes, I say perfectly fine. And are you willing to pay this and this and this and this price for it? Because that's how any partner will come with. You can have everything and anything you want in your relationship, but it will always come with a price. And every relationship will always have challenge and support within it. But compromise means that you don't actually understand that, this thing that you think you have to put up with is actually completely and utterly there for you, and completely and utterly there to elevate you to a higher state of consciousness, and completely and utterly there to bring you to a greater level of self-acceptance and self-love. So, yeah, desired partner, and you can have that any day. But I'll remind you of the first question I answered, is you can only attract on the outside what you already vibrate on the inside. So if you want somebody, who has their stuff completely and utterly sorted out, maybe on a physical level, maybe on a financial level, on a vision level, on a purpose level, then best you bring that to the table as well. And if there are any holes, any leaking bits in your self-love, if you are not completely and utterly complete, you will keep attracting people into your life that will press those buttons in order for you to come and look at yourself and really get to an understanding which wounds you still need to heal. So yeah, absolutely, you can have your desired partner, but there is no such thing as compromise. And second best, I don't want you to settle for anything, that's not what this is about. But having unrealistic expectations about your partner having only good sides or only upsides, or it's only going to be la la land, yeah, that doesn't work. And you can have your desired partner if you're also willing to pay the price that person brings to your life, because that price is there to shape you into a greater level of personal power, resilience, and self-love. So thank you for that question. Great question. Right, I'm going to my last question here. How can I start the self-love process when it all seems absolutely impossible? Where do you start? Great question. It kind of ties in with 2 and 3. Sort of 2, when you're angry, how do you move past it? 3, when you've hit wrong button. So how do you start the self-love process when you are absolutely, when it all seems impossible? The first thing is self-compassion. You know, if you want the outside world to, soothe you and love you and support you, you kind of have to do that for yourself first. And maybe you've never really understood what that really means. So really understanding, how can you self-soothe? How can you self-parent? Because remember, I said, if you want something on the outside, you have to do it on the inside first. So it's your job to figure out how to really come to a place of self-compassion, how you can really self-soothe. That has something to do with seeing that, because you asked me when it all seems impossible, that means that you're probably in a place where your perception has lost the balance and you think that only bad things are happening to you. So again, I would say, go back, look at what is going on here. If everything seems impossible, what is completely and utterly on track? What is here to grow and guide you? How is this very terrible bad thing actually here to deliver to you the greatest gift of your life? Then the second level is what is right now, right here, still going absolutely and completely and utterly right? Everything from running water to, hot food to being able to walk on the street and be safe. You must see that every situation brings light and dark equally. If you're stuck in the dark, take out a gray piece of paper, write down everything you're grateful for, everything that's going right, and then step it up and go, how is this thing that's going wrong here to grow and guide me? I'm harping on about this over and over and over again because it's the absolute foundation for getting out of anything, whether that is a bad situation or a lack of self-love. The other thing that I would say is really take time to figure out your purpose. What have you been born to do on this life? Because when you understand your purpose, you really know why these things are challenging you, because they're here to try and grow you towards that purpose. If you don't know what that purpose is, then, then it just makes no sense. Then it really does look like the universe is just hammering you over and over and over again. But when you can see, okay, in my situation, for instance, I knew that I wanted to, teach self-love and really support and care for people that were in a state where they had put other people before themselves, both in relationships and in their children and in work. Do you think I could have really done that properly without going through a humongously huge divorce and then also being incredibly ill at the same time and then having to figure out how to build a business, even though I'm the least techie business head there is on the planet? I don't think I could have really served you right now, right here, to the absolute maximum of my capacity if I didn't really understand the process of going through hell and back several times in the past 5 years. I needed that challenge, and I am a more together, more focused, more passionate person than I've ever been before. Sure, at the beginning when it hit me, oh my lordy, did I have a really bad time because it smacked me. And of course I had a terrible time because I was in shock. Even though I'd been practicing and teaching this material, when something as big as that, as big as that comes along, then of course your world is going to shake. But immediately go into those two things. What is still utterly and completely going right and supporting you to an equal level. So not 5 things are going wrong and, one thing is going right. It has to be equal. And then how is this bad thing here to grow and guide you? And write down hundreds of reasons, not just 2, not just 3, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. When eventually my piece of paper for my divorce was finished, when I wrote thank you on it, there were over 600 things on there that I just added to every single day. Every time I felt down, I read the list and added to it over and over and over again. So to answer your question, how can I start the self-love process? when it all seems impossible, where do I start? Self-compassion. And the only way you can have compassion is when you see that actually you have not been deserted by the universe. It's supporting you at exactly the same time as challenging you. And actually even the challenge is on your side. Then once you kind of take the shock out of your system, which the shock depends on those two things, then you can start and looking at compassion. So have compassion with yourself for where you're at and the fact that you're not dealing with it perfectly. And then we can start all the other steps that I really, cover in the GLOW process, which is, learning to love your own beauty, establish healthy boundaries, understand the lesson, the message, the gift and the blessing in our challenges, be able to speak your truth, get to a place where you can really say what you need and how you feel, and then really power up your purpose. Those are all elements that kind of come later. So starting has to do with really stopping the shock element of what's going on. And really understanding that you are a complete and whole person. I always say that you're the right person at the right time, with the right, at the right time, at the right place. You have the right body, the right beauty, and the right face. You're facing the right challenges with the right support at the right pace. And the only thing that you have to do is actually see the balance in everything and how everything is here to grow and guide you, and that nothing is out of place. And that all of these situations are constantly, all day, trying to lead you back to, that whole state of balance and self, where every single person, every single thing, every experience is always in perfect balance, light and dark, and even the dark bits are here to grow and guide you. That's really when people say trust the universe, Trusting the universe means seeing that this entire thing called life around you is already perfectly on track, and you within yourself have that balance too. You are equal, light and dark, perfectly matched, so that you can be perfectly aligned towards your destiny, your greatness, your purpose. You actually need the dark bits, the downsides that you have, and you need all of these challenges, and you need life to sandwich you towards your greatness. All right, those are all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much. I so love answering these questions, and they're not scripted. I just kind of look at them last minute, so you get the short version rather than the hours and hours that I like to do on a Monday night. My little piece of advice for you tonight is that suffering originates in unbalanced and incomplete awareness of a universe that is always completely and utterly on your side and completely and utterly pushing, growing and guiding you to your greatest destiny. Everything that's happening inside of you and outside of you is there to take you to your greatest dreams. And so come to a state of gratitude, like the G in GLOW. Everything that you want to achieve starts first with a state of gratitude, then with love. And remember, love is dark and light perfectly together. That's love. Ownership is really taking ownership of your thoughts, because nothing on the outside can make you feel anything. The outside is just the trigger. The process that you put meaning to that trigger is happening on the inside of you, and that is on the upside something control, on the downside it can absolutely run riot. And then understanding that wisdom is something you have to learn. I don't care how many courses you've done, I don't care how many certificates there are on your wall, if you never ever were taught, or if nobody ever showed you how to truly fall in love with yourself, understand other people, why they do the things they do, and understand how life works, then you really don't have the essential wisdom to come to a place of complete self-love and understanding, and ultimately trusting the universe. That's why I named it GLOW: gratitude, love, ownership and wisdom. And that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much. Next week Q&A will be back to its usual day on a Tuesday again. And I can't wait to read all of your questions for next Tuesday. Keep them coming. And as I said before, I do a 20-minute connect call with absolutely anybody. If you have any burning questions or you have an issue that you want to talk about, what I do give you in that first 20 minutes is just a complete and utter overview of where you are, what needs to be done so that you can get to your result. And then you can choose how to progress in that, either with me as a coach or by yourself with all the tools that I've given you. That's it. Thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely evening. See you next week. Bye.